Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 184 of the Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, emallson, and joining me, we have my co-host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And this week we are back after the maybe skip last week turned into actually skip last week.
Yeah.
Um, and we are catching up on news because we had a bunch of stuff. We got hero talents, we got a roadmap, we've got
Oh
Tindral
yeah.
prog.
It's
It's
exciting.
been quite the couple weeks. So how about telling us about your Tindral times?
Yeah,
Anon.
Tindral is an awful fight that you do the first 30 seconds of, I think, 400 times and then you kill it. So we've had what, I think two full raid nights of progress, about 130 or so wipes so far, pulls in.
Yeah.
Um, have gotten a little bit more consistent at the end of our progression on Thursday. Saw P2 probably like five to like probably like yeah between like 5 and 10 times, which I think is pretty good. But yeah, it's hilarious the amount of like 30-second wipes we have that are just it's just bad. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't know what like the part that I hate the most is essentially the second roots, right? Where you
Yes.
are running,
Oh my
getting
god.
rooted, and hopefully getting rooted in a spot that fire doesn't hit you. And then if you have a freedom break, right? You break your roots and then hope that all the ads spawning die quickly enough and don't wipe the raid when the stars come in from like two-shotting people.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it is it is not my favorite P1, I'll say. However, getting into P2 and doing that a little bit, like we've seen up to the second seeds, I want to say like a couple times.
Yeah.
Um, but definitely the first seeds. P2 much better. I would take P2 over P1 any day of the week.
Well, do you know what
Um,
P1 is or P2 is missing?
what is it?
Fire beams. That mechanic is not present in phase 2 at all.
Which is honest to God, like it is so I don't know. I
Wait until
the fire
phase 3 when you have to do the fire beams. There's the very first overlap is you do dispels, you do roots, then there's or it's what is it? It's fire beams into dispels, into roots, into seeds, possible. Yes. Plus more fire beams, I think. It's like it's a
yeah,
lot.
I don't know.
What I've been told is like that first overlap, like the first overlap in phase 3 and the second overlap in phase 1 are like the just the
Yeah,
wildest.
yeah, the killing part. Yeah, because like I there was many a pull in P1 where like because I don't free myself in roots, I actually free our priests because of the way our raid comp is set up. We have so few range that like it's either going to be a priest or our invoker needing to be our first to spell.
Yeah.
And so like it's essentially like they need to be free immediately. And we don't have any other freedoms to sort of spread around at that point.
Yeah.
Um and so having to position myself, basically doing a fucking geometry problem in my head about like, okay, I see one beam coming ahead of me, one coming from the side, but this one is the first beam and the second beam is going to be offset a little bit. So I can't like move like too far out of that
Yep.
one because then I'll stand in the second one. I always got to watch my right for the stuff that's coming late. Yeah, it's just like, it got to the point, like one pull, I think I almost broke my mouse because I did it perfectly positioned. My root was broken late, but I didn't die. And then I had to loop around I looped around for some reason. And as I'm running to loop around, there's a late fire beam that I run straight into, like
Oh my
5 seconds
god.
after
Yeah.
everything's done. And my raider's like, "What are you doing?" And now I'm like, I don't want to talk about it because like right now I'm so mentally drained for the past like 30 pulls of trying to position myself perfectly, doing it, feeling awesome, and then running into a beam. It was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So we're at a similar point in prog to you guys. I will I'm gonna pull up prog stats on stream for
oh,
these two.
nice.
Because I want to show something because there's a thing that I want to talk about. I have a thing to not do. You are going to start Tindral progression. Do not do this. So I'm going to pull up. This is a Noms guild. And the thing I want to highlight is that they've got this nice, 7.5 hours on the raid boss, 133 pulls. You can see the well, if you're watching the stream, you can see the brownish
Couple of
dots
good
towards the
pulls.
end
Yeah.
that are phase 2 pulls. Good stuff. Um, I'm going to now switch to my guild, uh,
Oh no.
which this is what you don't do on Tindral. So we have 8.6 hours, so an extra hour beyond what you guys have. Uh,
Hmm.
but we got 194 pulls, 60 pulls more, and that
Jesus.
is because our first real night of prog on Tindral, um, we just hardcore chain pulled, like absolutely hardcore chain pulled, just trying to like get through that first overlap. Did not really take time to work things through in between
Hmm.
pulls. Was not great. It kind of was burning people out too. Like I think everybody that I talked to was like, this was the least fun kind of
Oh
raid
yeah.
night. And then after we've come back and we started, we sit down after a wipe and we like talk through it and figure it out. Has been a lot more enjoyable for people. We are getting like to the same point that you guys are. We're
Yeah.
hitting phase 2. We're making it through that first set of seeds. Done that a few times, 2 3 times, and seeing that second set of seeds. Haven't yet to get that one done yet, but
Hmm.
we're getting there, and we're starting to get really consistent at phase 1, which feels nice. Like the end of our raid night, we were just like, not every pull was a phase 2 or intermission pull, but we probably like our last 10 pulls are probably 80% phase 2
That's good. Yeah.
or at least hitting the intermission. And there's a lot of like we had a couple. It was so depressing. We got to the end of the phase where there's the double fire beams that you gate out of, and
Yeah.
then the boss like pushes you back, and we get there and we have like either everybody alive or like one person died, and we B-res them, and then just people get pushed into beams
Oh, dude. Yeah.
and just like lose a quarter of the raid. It's like
What are you doing?
we
Yeah.
we we need to wipe now. We aren't gonna do supernova 4 DPS down.
Yeah. No, yeah, we too, the whole mental thing I think is was big for us too, because like we took 2 breaks on Thursday. So Thursday was a full nothing but Tindral. And so like
Yeah,
we literally took two, I think it was 2 10-minute breaks, or even maybe like a 15 and a 10-minute break. Like just to give people a chance to like walk around. Cause like, yeah, like you can get into Tindral where like you're chain pulling, like you're wiping every 30 seconds and like you're chain pulling every like you're doing like, in a 10-minute span, like maybe 5 6 attempts, right?
yeah,
Which is just wild. Like it's real
yeah,
that's really quick. And so yeah, no, we definitely have added 2 breaks. And like I think we'll continue to re-clear. I think at least this week we'll at least do this. So we got the skip. So maybe we don't re-clear everything. We basically just do the skip bosses. But I don't
yeah.
think we'll ever extend on Tindral just because I cannot. Like if we did 8 hours of progression a week on Tindral, I like if maybe if we're close to a kill and it's like okay, like this Tuesday we're gonna extend because like we're hitting phase 3 consistently from
Right.
last week and like we think we're gonna kill it. But that's a is a rough mental boss.
Yeah.
I'd say.
We might be extending. We so the other thing that's going on, and I'm sure you guys had to deal with this too, is the roster boss. Um, where we don't have 2 paladins in our raid,
Hmm.
period. So we're already playing on hard mode because this fight
Yep.
is basically a comp check on how many people can either free themselves or how many freedoms you have. And normally, what people do is you have 2 paladins, and you can freedom the last 2 people to get the fiery growth debuff on every set.
Mhm.
And it just works out because freedom is a really low cooldown. We have 1 paladin, supposed to have 3 hunters. We've had one raid night where we had all 3 there, and we've had basically like 2.5 raid nights on this boss.
Nice.
And I say that actually, the half raid night is the one that we had all 3.
Gosh. Yeah,
So
the comp check on this one's tough too for us too because like we have the additional like we have an additional issue of like because you run so much melee, right? Like that's the problem is like
hmm
you want to run as many. What is it like? It's 8 melee I think you want or something like that
yeah,
or 10 melee, something ridiculous. And so we don't have we don't have a druid like
in the raid,
that. Well, so we have a druid, but we have 2 druids, but both of them play boomkin, and
our
boomkin's just
boomkins play feral on
trash.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, so like we had a boomkin, our boomkin went feral. He hates his life. Like he has been literally him and I have been in this guild probably since he was in before me, but so I've been raiding with them since HFC. So like, what is that, like 10 years or something? He has always been Boomkin.
Uh-huh.
Every tier, every rate, like have never seen him heal. He tanks and keys, that's about it. But like literally always Boomkin and never Feral. And like him playing Feral is so hilarious. He literally like I whisper him like, hey, how's it going? He's like, I hate my life. He's like, can we just kill this boss? Like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
our Feral Druid, or our Boomkin that's playing Feral, played Windwalker for us before. Have played other melee, so they're
gotcha.
like they're not a diehard uh, Boomkin player, but they have historically mostly been ranged. Like they played Evoker for us the past couple tiers. I
Yeah.
think the legendary situation pissed them off so badly that they needed to not play Evoker because they didn't get the legendary until like 2 weeks before this patch. It was
Oh Jesus.
ridiculous. They had, I think it was 2 resets with the legendary. Um, so they got, we gave them PI on every boss one of those 2 resets, so they could
That's
actually
awesome.
like
Let's play
use
around
it.
with it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um, yeah, no, yeah, that's funny. But yeah, no, that's this boss is it's a slog to get through. So and the funny thing is too, like looking at wipes, at least wipe counts, like Fyrakk seems like a much lower wipe count, although similar progression time. So
Yeah.
which
I th-
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know about you. I don't like quick wipe boss fights. I don't like this 30 seconds, get to a point and like just die
Yeah.
uncontrollably.
Yeah.
So
So like for reference on the numbers on this, Tindral, there are 73 public kills that are on prog sets, and the pull count for those is 313 to 417 is like the middle 50%.
mhm.
So that's very high. That's a lot of pulls.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
the amount of the actual like raid time for that is 21 to 30 hours. Uh, Fyrakk is 194 to 277 pulls. So the top end even is lower than the bottom end of Tindral.
Yeah.
But the actual like raid time for that is 20 to 28 hours. So it's like almost identical raid time. It's just that because you're not wiping at this
Oh
like
yeah.
phase one on Tindral is one of just the wildest parts of the fight. I've been doing some looking at what phase three is like, and phase three has that overlap at the start that is just bonkers, and you get through that. And I'm not gonna say it's easy. That is how we like underestimate it and die to it, but it is
Yeah.
not like the overlap in phase one where
Exactly.
you for I guess like for people that aren't super familiar with the fight on Mythic, like on Heroic you can just freedom yourself out of the root and it's fine, nothing happens. On Mythic, if you do that, it spawns a treant. The treant pulses damage. On the second set of roots in phase one on Mythic, there are so many fire beams, and the roots have so much health that you cannot sit in the roots. Basically, like you needed
Yeah.
immunity to be able to sit in the roots. You need like a nether walk kind of deal to be able to sit in the roots because you're gonna get hit by a beam, and the beams are a one shot. Um, so everybody gets freedomed on the second set, and you spawn 20 treants.
Yep.
This is actually like the secret boss of this boss, besides the roster boss, is the FPS boss, the frame rate boss. Because that
Dude.
overlap, like the list of things where like people have to do for this is just like it's turn off details, turn off plater, or at least turn off the nameplates
Yep.
for the roots and the treants. It's turn off combat logging. So the
Because of the stupid queuing, man. Oh yeah.
the combat logging thing, they didn't fully implement it apparently for this patch. So like um but they changed something because we didn't have this problem before, even on things like Denathrius,
Yeah.
which is a very similar situation. But it's just like you have 20 treants out, 20 people are DPSing them, they are pulsing damage on 20 players, and that's triggering like healing and stuff from 20 heal or not 20, but 4 healers on 20 players, and it's just like a ludicrously high event count, and that's what causes all this stuff to break down. Like this is
Yeah.
why details and plater cause performance problems there. This is why um, some weak auras cause performance problems. This is why the combat log causes performance problems. And it's just like, okay, so just like I'm the one who logs. because I have a very aesthetic UI setup, and I can actually like I don't have to turn anything off.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, no, that's
But
that is the one part of the fight where like yeah, I go down to like 1 FPS and like again sitting in my roots, I am slamming my roll key like while still trying to heal just to make sure I can get out of whatever fire is heading my direction. Hopefully it updates in time and I hit the right, frames to get out of it. But
yeah,
no, it's we'll probably be talking about this for the next couple of weeks, our progression here, but yeah, Tindral is something. Just one other thing before we jump into like some of the notes and stuff for this week is there was a set of nerfs to Smolderon. We didn't get a chance to talk about this, but this came in basically the week before Christmas with that reset. And so what they ended up doing was a couple of what seemed to be annoying things, but actually turned out to be not so annoying in the grand scheme, at least for us. So the one thing they did was they fixed the way the mythic mechanic works on Smolderon, the seeking infernos, which are the orbs that you need to soak, and you can't soak more than 2 at once because you get a debuff that makes you take increased damage from the explosion. They basically changed it so those no longer display at least their threat table to the UI or to like the game client, which is how people were detecting when you had the seeking infernal like chasing you, right? Because the orbs themselves had a threat table, and then the weak ores, could do a calculation and say, okay, these guys have threat on these things, they're targeted by them, and this is the order you explode them. So Blizzard fixed that, basically removing the threat information from the Seeking Infernals, and so,
basically all the automatic weak
yep,
ores for it broke,
yep,
which pushes you into using a macro for it. Basically, like you could still use a macro to communicate and say like, hey, I have the orb.
hmm
Um, so there's that, and there's also a weak ore that makes the size of the like, hey, you've been targeted by an orb text really
hmm
big. So
yeah,
we switched to those two things. But in compensation, they did nerf the number of orbs, which from 4 orbs to 3 orbs, which was actually a very
oh yeah,
sizable nerf. That made it so much easier.
yeah. Um, and we actually don't use any sort of macros; we just naturally call it.
Really?
Yeah, so it's for us. It's we actually have a 21st person that sort of will call things whether they're in or out of the raid. It's our raid leader basically, sometimes and sometimes not. So he takes on the role of calling that. So yeah, he'll call it for us, and it's really simple. Really no change to that.
Yeah.
But the
I
biggest
mean,
change for us, or sorry,
I was speculating about this with people before that it might be possible to do that, and it sounds like it is. Like we're using
yeah,
the macro, because it does, I think, make it easier.
yeah.
But we also have somebody reading off the list and calling people, so
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's both ways, yeah, or just as easy. So yeah, so we did that for that. And I think what was actually the bigger change was that the flame waves, which are the flame things that emanate you from half the raid, basically, when you get the debuff,
yeah,
that was reduced from 5 flames that spread out around you to only 4. So basically, a reduction of 1, which to me is like we lost more people to that ability, I think, than like miss soaking an orb or like,
yeah,
something like that. So yeah, that was a big change, I think, in our mind, at least for our raid, was that yeah, there's basically, 10 less waves to dodge every time
yeah. The
across the raid. So
the secret impact of that is that now disc priest is a little bit less mandatory on this fight. I'll say
yeah,
so. On Smolderon, we did not get it 2 weeks ago. We got it last week. So we've now got 2 kills.
hmm
We went back and we had a disc priest on it this week. And for reference on how well this disc priest did on this fight, they parsed a 1, not rank 1,
nice.
a 1.
Oh, not nice.
Um, but the fight was so much easier. They
Yeah,
literally all they did is like 8 of what is like 6 of 8 of the healing observers they just completely deleted. The other 2 they messed up their ramp. But the 6 of 8
nice.
that they deleted, it was night and day. It was completely different. It was just so much easier for people. And I really wish we had a holy priest and they weren't playing disc because reasons. And I really wish that we had made them or had asked them to play disc. Like we were concerned about the HPS, but you clearly don't need it because you can parse a 1. on Disc Priest,
Yeah.
and just by erasing the healing absorbs. Um,
It's
it's
uh it's so much
it's
nicer.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
So if you're doing this on Mythic, if you've got a Disc Priest, even if they're not doing great, as long as they are doing those ramps on those healing absorbs, they can do nothing else in the fight. If they do that and they don't die, it's worth it. It is so worth it.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I think it's just the fight itself. It's such a sizable, like the numbers on paper look very small, but like the wave change to me is so sizable that like
Yeah.
it makes the fight. I'm not gonna say free, but like having killed it with 5 waves coming out versus 4, it's like night and day. Like
Yeah,
it's like
it's
a totally different fight. Yeah.
significantly nerfed. Which always sucks. Like we had, like a 2%, maybe even a sub 1% wipe, I don't remember,
Hmm.
before on the week before the nerf. And then coming in and having it nerfed pretty heavily always kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
um moving on a little bit, there were a few Fyrakk nerfs. Neither of us are on Fyrakk, so it's hard for us to contextualize this. There are two, though, that target one of the comp checks on Fyrakk. So that is the
Hmm.
Screaming Souls. They increase the cast time of their Searing Screams on Mythic from 2 seconds to 4 seconds, which I think matches Heroic now.
Hmm.
Um, and then they reduce the health of the Screaming Souls by 20%. And so the reason that this was a comp check, basically, is that you still basically have to have a Blood DK.
Hmm.
Um, but now you don't need to also have a Holy Paladin. So what people are doing is that you would have your Holy Paladin use Blessing of Autumn on the Blood DK to reduce the cooldown of uh, Mass Grip by 10 seconds,
Hmm.
which then makes it like you take the 90-second Mass Grip, that reduces it to a minute 20, which is exactly the amount of time between the sets of Screaming Souls.
Yeah.
And so you would get to mass grip both sets. And now you don't super need the mass grip on one of the sets, so you can make up for it with just like Abomination's Limb,
Yeah.
which a DPS DK can actually bring. So you don't even really probably need a Blood DK now. It's super good, so you should play one. But like if you have 2 DPS DKs, probably do it with that, with just like
Yeah,
each of them
exactly.
playing Abomination Limb.
Yeah. No, yeah. So those will be, again, I think those are mostly just make the intermission or those what's
The
phase 2
Yeah,
easier. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But no, it's we'll probably see some more nerfs.
yeah,
Hopefully over the next couple weeks. But yeah, no, that's sort of the nerfs and sort of what we've been rating. If we move on to a couple of topics, then I think the main thing we're going to talk about is just roadmap stuff and some hero talent. So um again, it's end of year, so 2024 is upon us as we record this. Within probably the next 10 hours or so, well, if you're East Coast time, you'll get to celebrate New Year. If you're like my cousin, they're in Australia, they've already celebrated and already texted me Happy New Year. Very, very intoxicated. But no, so there is a couple of sort of year-end retrospectives, you can say. So Blizzard put out a video of sort of the 2023 World of Warcraft sort of retrospective with a bunch of just highlights of different content that was put out over the years. So you've got like clips of like the raid race and a Midrasil. You've got highlights of the hardcore Makura tournament that I think OTK put on. The Abras World First. I always forget Abras was also this year. So
yeah.
yeah, so
I
World
mean,
First up there. And then
for a lot of us, Vault of the Incarnates was also this year. I mean, obviously, like farming
oh
it was this
yeah,
year, but like
that's true.
when did we kill Razagath? I didn't say it was like very.
Guys, we got 3 tiers, 2 tiers.
We're
Wow, it's wild.
the launch timing of like Vault of the Incarnates launched
Mm-hmm.
beginning of December, and
It's
Amir
true.
still
Oh yeah.
dropped the end of November or mid November. Um. So yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah, we killed it and we killed Razagath in March this year. Wow.
yeah, it's
A
it's
lot of
crazy.
content. A lot of content.
They the whole like Dragonflight, the content for it has been good. They have done good.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. I didn't realize. Yeah, March. Yeah, wow. But yeah, tons of the little, just a little video. It's like a minute or so long, just a bunch of little clips of recaps of stuff that happened this year, which is cool. If you want to relive 2023. And then Mike Ybarra, Blizzard president, I guess, or yeah, person in charge at over at Blizzard, did his retrospective sort of note to the community, sort of covering everything that happened in 2023 across all the different, Blizzard games. So, Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, of course, Diablo, Overwatch, things like that. So, some interesting stuff there. A couple of interesting stats, um, that of things within each game, and sort of a look ahead at this year coming up, which, I think we all know War Within for World of Warcraft's coming. There's apparently an expansion for Diablo 4 coming out.
Hmm.
I feel bad. I haven't really loaded that game since before season one.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I played the current season. The current season is actually like good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I hit like I finished the content basically. I lucked into playing basically the best build in the game just entirely
Oh,
by accident
nice.
because I decided I wanted to play Lightning Sorcerer, and Lightning
Yeah,
Sorcerer has a completely busted build.
that's
So
funny.
I hit like level 90 and was doing the like Uber's content and just like killing them in 10 seconds. Very
Oh, nice.
very busted.
Very easy. That's awesome.
uh,
Um,
yeah, and basically haven't
nice.
touched it since. But also, that was a solid, couple weekends of play, and that was fun. So anyway,
Nice.
back on topic.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so really good little just retrospective plus a look ahead to 2024, which I mean, to be fair, should be pretty good. You got, yeah, Diablo 4 expansion. There's apparently a battlegrounds mode in Hearthstone where you can play with a friend called duos.
Yes, I
Is
played
that
that.
live yet?
No, I played it at BlizzCon.
Uh, that seems fun. I'm a huge battlegrounds dude.
We
Like I like.
we had people. The lines for this at BlizzCon were long. Like, there's a not to get too much into the stuff there was to do at BlizzCon, but this was one of the things to do at BlizzCon that people were very
Nice.
excited about, and it had very long lines. But people from my guild managed to get in, and they had basically three groups of two that were all doing battleground duos against each other.
Oh, nice.
And so that was cool. That was like some people that are super into battlegrounds, and some people that like they play but not super like not a lot.
Yeah.
And that was just really cool.
Oh, nice. Nice. So that'll be fun. Yeah. But then, of course, War Within, which is launching later this year, which we'll get into because we have, I guess, a
Hero
little bit of a,
talents.
yeah, we got hero talents and roadmaps to talk about. So, um, cool. I think, oh, sorry, just one other minor, I don't even know why I put this in the notes. One other super minor thing, but they added sparks to the whatever vendor, the like you have
Yep.
a trash vault vendor. So you can now buy a single spark of dreams for 6 tokens, whatever they're called,
Yeah.
aspect tokens. Um, yeah,
If these were still like max eye level, then
yeah,
like you could do this last year where you would just buy sparks and
yeah.
just craft extra things, but you eventually are able to do that anyway. So if you have a thing to socket, it's worth it to just socket.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or even to be fair, hold on to sockets. Like that's, I think
Yeah.
I think I took my little first, oh no, I lied. Dude, my vaults, just a quick aside, have been dope. I am
Yeah.
3 out of 4 mythic tier set items,
Yeah.
with having looted 0 from the raid and
Nice.
catalyst 0, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, vaults have actually been really good,
I
for
took my
me.
first
So,
socket this week. And I put it
oh,
I
nice.
forgot. So I put it on a mythic ring, which is like that's great. That's a ring I'm not going to replace. I
Yeah.
forgot I had a mythic helm in my bags that I was waiting to just like catalyst and replace my heroic helm. Because my
Yeah.
heroic helm had a socket on it. They rolled a
Gotcha.
socket, so I just needed to wait until I got a socket, and I forgot I could have had an eye level upgrade on my helm and a socket this week.
Way to go. Way to
So
go.
next socket goes to that.
Gosh. Awesome. But yeah, maybe let's get into some roadmap stuff for this week. So Blizzard right before Christmas dropped 2 big roadmaps basically. So they split it up between World of Warcraft Classic roadmap, which would contain, Season Discovery, Wrath Classic, eventually Cataclysm Classic, and then Hardcore. And then they gave Retail has their own roadmap. So starting with the Classic roadmap, I will just maybe briefly touch on this. Biggest thing is we're going to get Cataclysm Classic this summer. So that's when they're targeting the launch, which will be awesome. I think at this point it'll, that puts it, if you're watching retail, puts it hopefully in the lull of season 4 of retail, and really right before, the launch of War Within. We get some Cataclysm Classic work going on, which will be fun. But then the big news, at least that I think is really exciting, is early spring, we're going to get solo self-found classic hardcore, which is, if you're not familiar with what solo or what self-found mode is, or what a self-found mode is, it's primarily comes from ARPGs like, Diablos, Path of Exiles, things like that, where you can't trade loot. Basically, whatever drops for you is what drops for you. You get to use it, but you can't trade it or give it away or do anything like that. So they're adding that mode into hardcore WoW Classic, and yeah, you get self-found mode, which is really cool. It's a sort of a tougher, we'll say, mode from a hardcore perspective,
This is
but yeah,
that's basically how the hardcore like add-on worked
yeah,
before official hardcore support. But it was all like honor system kind of stuff. Like it had checks
yeah,
to try and make sure you didn't violate it, but at the end of the day, like if you wanted to go and like trade stuff on hardcore before, you could do that.
yeah,
So solo stuff on here is going to actually be enforced. Like you won't be able to trade or use the auction house or mail things between players, basically. So yeah,
yeah. And they also released then what we already know about, but the season of discovery sort of cadence, we'll say, of the content updates there. So level 40 updates sometime later this winter. The spring will bring level 50 as the new cap, and then over the summer, level 60 and endgame will be the new cap, with a surprise really at the end of next year. End game content updates for season discovery, which
hmm
I wonder what those will be. I've been having a ton of fun, by the way, in season discovery. If you haven't played it, I think it's a really cool way to just hang out with your buds, I'll say. Like,
I have yet to hit level 25. I'm slowly working
oh,
on it. They're like, we need another player. I'm like, I'm not there yet.
yeah,
Maybe I'll work on that. I don't know. I'm on break from work, right? And I've been doing other things that
nice.
I need to do or want to do, and I have not just like sat down and ground classic.
Fair enough. It is a good time, I'll say. But yeah, no, this is a really cool roadmap. Yeah, Cataclysm and the hardcore stuff will be fun, and then season discovery, I think, has been a blast for me. So I'm super excited. Oh, I guess the one thing in season discovery, if we care, Nomergon was announced as the raid.
Yeah.
So there was some speculation the level 40 raid will be Nomer, which whew, good times, good times. So um, along with this, since we got the roadmap, we are starting to see things pop up on the old WoW CDN. So Cataclysm was up there a little bit before the roadmap, or right around the same time as the roadmap was released. And yeah, it's good. Stuff's happening. Stuff's happening. Maybe moving on to the topic that most people care about, the retail roadmap. So we got the retail roadmap, basically laying out everything for the next year, which has some interesting things on it. So we know about 10.2.5 coming later this winter. And then there's a weird 10.2.6 and skull and crossbones flag with nothing on it, which people are sort of wildly speculating about what this could be, what
Yeah.
10.2.6 is. People are saying, oh, there's going to be some pirate theme thing. Other people are saying they're bringing the hardcore rule set into retail. Um,
I hadn't heard
it'll,
that one. That one would be interesting.
it to me, the problem with that, we've talked about this before, about the biggest difference between, I'd say, retail and classic WoW is, like, in classic, the difficult content is solo based,
Yeah.
and the group based content is fairly easy, and the
Yeah.
reverse is true in retail, where the solo content very easy, and the group content is harder. So yeah, we'll see what this is, but randomly, no real news about 10.2.6. Just a skull and crossbones. So I hope we get pirate. I'm hoping something to do with
It's
pirates.
also
I don't know
like it's
why.
before the season 4 stuff.
Right, yeah.
So we have season 4 on this roadmap. It's slated for early spring, which would be like March.
Mm-hmm.
So very similar time frame. Like, what was it? Avarice released in April, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like you shift that timeline back a couple weeks, you get the season 4 launch timeline. Not super shocking.
Right.
And then That leads into the War Within at the end of summer, beginning of fall, which is, I will note, very noticeably staggered from Cataclysm Classic release.
Yes.
Like if you are, this summer is going to be jam packed. We're gonna have at the beginning of the summer. So like we go spring season 4, we go beginning of summer Cataclysm Classic, we go midsummer, we have level 60 season of
Today.
discovery stuff. We go end of summer, we get a new retail expansion. It's packed. I will note that there's no like end of year thing on this roadmap for retail. So I
Yeah.
believe so. Like on the kind of season discovery one, there's like a big season discovery update apparently towards the end of the fall, which would be like technically like November.
Yeah.
There's not really an equivalent for the War Within, so that kind of leads me to believe that we're looking at like a so how long was Avarice? It was mid-April, right? Like late April
Yeah.
through mid-November.
Yeah.
That kind of timeline, like if you shift it and you start it in September, right? Beginning of
Yeah.
September. Basically 11-1 in the 2025 timeframe.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like, yeah, like a January, or not even January, probably more like February-ish time frame for 11-1. Which I think makes sense. Like I think this end of summer War Within, which to be fair would put that sometime in September at the latest, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the end of Q3 for old Blizzard. That's what I'm thinking they'll actually launch a September timeframe, and then 11.5, probably like 6 weeks later, early December. And then yeah, then we'll get 11.1 after the new year. But no, it's laying out. I didn't realize. So season 4, new Mythic Plus season, I think was a little bit surprising to me. Where we're gonna get that to me sounds like all new dungeons,
Yeah.
right? Like
I mean
maybe a new set of dungeons.
that's what season 4 was last expansion, right? We got
Oh,
we
did we
got
get
all
new
the mega
dungeons?
dungeons. That was all the mega dungeons at once.
That's right. Okay, you're fair. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Um
no. So,
there
oh, sorry.
was so they did the season 4 stuff was like only a PvP season, new Mythic Plus dungeons, new raid stuff. The thing that is different here for season 4 is actually that they highlighted new open world stuff. So that kind of makes
Hmm.
me think that between 10.25, 10.26, 10.27, which is more dot patches than I expected to get at the end of the expansion, we're
Yeah,
gonna probably get world reward eye level bumps to coincide with season 4,
getting a higher level
so
stuff.
that people that are still doing open world stuff on their characters can you know get new stuff too.
Yeah, yeah, and we also have here the Pandemonium. Just one other thing in 10.27, they have this time running Pandemonium, which no one really knows what this is, but
Yeah, I I hadn't noticed this before. Normally it's time walking.
exactly, but
This
it's
one is
time
time
running.
running.
Yeah,
Interesting.
which I wonder what that. And look, anything with pandas means Miss a Pandaria, which to
I've
me
seen people
best
speculate that
expansion.
this is the return of like challenge modes,
Yeah,
like
I've heard
panda
that too,
challenge
actually.
modes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which to me was, I think, so. I think challenge modes. I only did a couple challenge modes in when they were current. I think
yeah,
it's a cool thing if they. The thing with that though is like, I hope they don't bring back the same armor. If this is challenge modes, right? I hope it's a different armor, even if it's a recolor of the same armor, but not the exact same armor. Similar to what they did with when they brought back ZA
yeah,
with the bear mount, right? Like
yeah,
still the same model, just it was a different color.
yeah.
Um, so yeah.
I'm like, as long as it's similar difficulty, like I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with them bringing back the old armor. I think that was one of the concerns with the Mage Tower, where like the Mage Tower came back and it had different rewards, and I think that was good because in virtually every case it was a lot easier than
Yeah.
Legion. And I mean that that's a little bit of a half truth because you could go in with Antorus like raid gear and just steamroll the Mage Tower at the end of Legion.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, and I do think that the Mage Tower we got in Shadowlands was harder than that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean, like I did at the end of Legion, I did all of the Hunter Mage Towers in a day, which was like did not play Hunter at all that expansion, other than like World Quest stuff. So
yeah.
like, yeah,
Well,
it
okay.
was.
Hunter also had like just straight up the easiest mage towers.
Oh yeah,
So
no, yeah, they were
yeah,
a joke. Yeah, yeah.
like I did the 200 mage towers without like with heroic raid gear from Nighthold. And I got them done in like, an hour. And
Yeah.
I went and started working on the brewmaster one. And that one took weeks.
Exactly, exactly. But no, yeah, I'm excited to see what this means. Like if it is challenge modes, I think it's super super cool. But yeah, no, they've got the 10.2.7, and then shortly thereafter, early summer, we've got the pre-patch for 11, for the War Within, and then War Within late summer. So an alpha starts like, yeah, you're right. Like the way that they've laid this out, between classic and this, there's sort of something new in each of the versions, we'll say, of WoW, which is
Yeah.
to me, like that's one thing I wanted to say was you were saying that is like I am playing WoW like 6 nights a week now, and like playing like retail 2 nights, playing Wrath 2 nights, playing classic with my buds, like season of discovery 2 nights, and like having a blast, which it reminds me of like when I used to just mainline WoW back when I was like in college, and it was like the only game I played, right?
Yeah.
And so very similar, but it's something different, like where like I'm excited to like, okay, retail, excited to raid this week, do Tindral prog, that's fun. But then like immediately afterwards, I'm like, okay, I need to do something else. And it's not like
Yep.
I have to find a game. It's like jump on SOD, level something, or like head into like Wrath Classic and get ready for raid there. So no,
Yeah.
it's I'd say they're doing, it's weird, but I think they're doing well right now, like in
Yeah.
terms of like something for almost everybody. So
Also, we completely skimmed through this. I just want to repeat this. With 10.2.5, we get dragon riding in the old world, and
oh yeah.
we just keep glossing over it. It was like one of the big things we were talking about, and there's just so much stuff on here that we're just like glossing over it now, which is cool.
That
That's
yeah.
cool. We've come a long way
Oh
from
God, dude.
like the BFA
Shadowlands.
content drought. Like you
Yeah.
remember the end of BFA. Like we got Nyalotha for 11 months or something ridiculous like that. And it was like
Yeah.
the only content releases in BFA were the 3 raid patches. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a far cry, we'll say, from like, yeah, even just an expansion ago, which is good. I mean, it's cool. Like it's cool that they're able to put all this out. I mean, I don't think they're perfect by any means. Like I think
Yeah.
we can talk about like each part of the game having like its own issues, right? Like, like season discovery, people complain about balance all the time there, right? Because like there are
Oh
certain
yeah, it's
classes
a
that are
mess.
just,
Have you seen the
yeah.
stuff about the mechanical greench?
Oh no, have I used it? Yes, I have. It did literally. So like, just a quick personal story. We were doing SOD last night with me. I have a group of like 6 friends like that are playing it. So like we do SOD every couple nights, right? Because it's a 3-day lockout. We're in there last night, and I have another. I'm playing mage. Another buddy's playing mage. He's a little bit of a hothead, and we sort of jaw at each other throughout the raid. It's always fun. And so like on the last boss, I like pop my Grinch early, and I don't say anything. And I'm just like DPSing away. And he's like starting to, we've been jawing back and forth each boss. And I'm like, at about 30%, I'm like, where are you at on the meters, Ed? And he's like, what? He's like, what? He's like, why are you leading? He's like, why are you like beating this rogue who's like was blasting the entire time? I'm like, I'm just good, getting lucky crits,
Mm-hmm.
playing well.
Mm-hmm.
He looks at my
Mm-hmm.
damage over. He's like, oh, the Greech. He's like, I forgot to use mine. He's like, I specifically got it to save it. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's been funny. I did ask Argo if we could blacklist or like remove Gritch from or invalidate all the parses with Greech in it.
It's been super funny. Like all of these random low level pets, like there's the dog whistle too, and like the spiked collar
Oh yeah,
that they just like summon pets for you that just auto attack, right?
yeah.
They're but the you're level 25.
Oh,
And
the
so
pets are
these
like,
items, and
yeah.
some of them are intended for like level 40 players. They come from like Scarlet Monastery.
Hmm.
Um and so they're really good.
Yeah.
It's very funny, like all these items that like nobody thinks about coming in and just like
Like yeah, like crushing
upending things.
meters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is on the one hand kind of frustrating, but then also on the other hand, it means that class balance is not a big deal because you could always do just fine if you just have a dog whistle.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like, yeah, some item, which is, yeah, that was when I ask the, yeah, Argo, who also works at Warcraft logs, to invalidate logs. He's like, you literally save world buffs. He's like, no, we're not doing that. He's like, Classic is literally about finding every exploit you can to do more damage. I was like, yeah, fair enough. Okay. I understood.
Yeah, yeah. Grinch is a weird one. I've been detoxing from Classic, so I have not been looking at the channel. But from what I understand, it's a limited time thing. It's a 3 use thing, and then once you've used
Yeah.
it, you can't get it until next year.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, and it's a 10-minute cooldown too. So if you wipe when you use it, you basically are screwed.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
So
it's a fun little thing. Like I don't think, I was just kind of joking around when I said that, but no, it's
yeah.
been a fun little toy to mess around with. But yeah, season discovery stuff. It's been, yeah, the rating's been fun and all that. So yeah, tons of WoW content. I don't know. Whew. It's gonna be a busy summer, we'll say, which I think is cool. Really spring too, because I mean, season 4 you'll get to redo all the raids and stuff like that. So relearn Razageth again. It'll be great.
but yeah. You want to switch over? We gotta.
Oh
You
yeah,
want to switch over to holy or not holy hero
hero
talents?
talent.
There we go.
Yes.
I had
Yeah.
the
So yes.
Lightsmith one pulled up, so I had holy on the brain.
No worries. Yeah, so Blizzard did, right before the Christmas break, release a pretty lengthy article or sort of write up on hero talents, sort of talking a little bit about what to expect from these talents, how they've built the initial concepts for them, how they interact with your current gameplay and your current talents. So it's a really good write up if you sort of want to get a preview of what hero talents are going to look like. And they did release, I think it's 4 trees also, at least the current
Three,
versions of the
three.
4 or 3.
We got so we got the one that we did not get the one they previewed at BlizzCon. I guess we have 4 now because we got the Mountain Thing one at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got Lightsmith for Holy and Protection Paladins. We have Chronowarden for Augmentation and Preservation Evokers. And we've got Sand Lane for Blood and Unholy Death Knights. And I will say that these kind of run the gamut from, you know, the Lightsmith one has a big mechanical hook. It's got this holy armaments thing that
Yep.
spawns this object in the world that you interact with, and as you progress through the tree, but you don't have to interact with it anymore. Somebody in your group can interact with it, which is very good for protection because sometimes you can't leave your consecration or move the boss to go pick up this thing that spawned, but one of your melee just like touching it gives it to you. So
Yep.
it's probably not going to be a big deal. But it's got this big like mechanical hook, this new mechanic for you to play around with, versus like Sand Lane, which does not.
Yeah.
So in some sense, like I'm going to borrow a little bit of lingo from like the Magic the Gathering community. The Sand Lane is a very spiky hero talent tree as it's currently built, where what that means is like it's somebody if you're really interested in just like power and you just like abilities that are good and do a lot of damage, like the kind of flavor of the month kind of person. Sand Lane, just like more numbers, more bigger numbers.
Yeah.
Little utility buffs, but more bigger numbers. There's really like it's another buff to track, but you don't even really have to track it. From everything I can see, it's just your stuff is more damage, and you
Hmm.
get probably some cosmetic stuff to go with it. Versus Lightsmith having this mechanic that you care about now. This is more of I forget what psychographic they talk about for this, but there's a different one that is like primarily like if you're a kind of player that is interested in having this like thing to play around to work with, like you want to play around holy armaments and that is the thing that excites you. It's very different, right? It's
Hmm.
for a different kind of player. um so and then we've got Chronowarden, which is just busted, so more augmentation being busted as hell, hooray.
Yeah.
But I think everybody honed in on the fact that Chronowarden gives augmentation, evoker, and preservation, but mostly augmentation. His preservation honestly can use some OP stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
it turns their hover into a blink with a reduced cooldown, and then also their blink makes them take 30% less damage,
Yeah.
which is wildly powerful.
Yeah, no, it's they get more, a little bit, but they get more defensive value, yeah, from their spells, yeah, which is yeah, the trees are it's wild. The trees themselves, I think, are pretty just from a structure perspective are interesting in that like it seems like we're all gonna get between 3 and 4 choice nodes,
Yeah,
or at least three. I think every of the trees had 3 choice nodes, and then just a bunch of passive boosts. I guess the Lightsmith one had 4.
yeah,
A bunch of just passive boosts to different either abilities. Whether that's like just general abilities, like I think the Evoker one, or sorry, the Chronowarden one is like a living flame initial buff, and then adds in like as you any sort of essence based ability you use has a chance to like put out 3 additional things that do damage and give you a chance to gain essence burst, I think is what it's called. They're
yeah,
like free um essence thing. So yeah, so it's interesting in the trees, a lot of just passive boosts to things that are out there with a couple of potentially mechanical changes. So
yeah,
um difficult to understand what we'll get as monks.
yeah,
Whether that's a new mechanical ability in some of the trees, or if it'll just be like deep diving into something that's similar. I'm wondering, particularly if we take Paladin for an example, because that was the Lightworn was the tank healer
yeah,
um, talents tree. I'm wondering if Brewmaster when Mistweaver will follow a similar thing where we get a new ability or new gameplay, thing
yeah,
that's could have shared between us because there's not a lot that's shared between Brewmaster and Mistweaver in terms of like a mechanic that makes sense to then
yeah,
expand upon. Like
yeah,
there's RSK, there's Blackout Kick, there's Jab or whatever it's called, like Tiger Palm, but like
yeah.
those are basic damaging things. Um, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
what they do. So
The
um,
psychographic I was thinking of for the Italian one is the Johnny Jenny, like the combo one where you have a thing and you want to build around it and you want to make it do cool things. And so like
yeah,
if you're like I want to make the holy armaments do cool things, like it's really not that appealing if you're just like I want power. I just want
exactly.
I want best thing. I want my things that I have that I like to do bigger numbers. They're different player profiles, like fundamentally. And I think brief aside, there are already on Wowhead up like initial reactions, at least to the Paladin one.
I think
Um,
almost
I
all of
think
them have
all
a
of them have
reaction
it.
now. Yeah,
Uh,
that was the Christmas thing that was coming out over Christmas.
yeah,
So
and the Paladin one was very much like that was just the thing running through my mind the whole time reading it is they were not a fan of it. And I'm just like, you're just not. This is just not the kind of thing that is ever going to appeal to you because
yeah, exactly.
it's like just reading it like you just want the things you just want the things you have to be better, and this is not, it's giving you a second thing to like try and play around. And if you're not interested in trying to play around that, like that's fine, you don't have to be interested in trying to play around it, but it's just not something for you. That's like
Exactly.
it's okay. I'm a big fan of them doing something besides like, you know, giving us just straight power on these, a bunch of passive buffs, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm also all for like, yeah, potentially, hopefully for our trees, we get some sort of, yeah, like gameplay
Yeah.
change in them. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'll say like
so
I skimmed through. I'm playing Blood right now. I've actually I'll have mained Blood for 2 out of 3 raids this expansion. Um, and
fake monk.
Fake Monk. It's okay. I mained it for 5 years and also last year, so it's fine. Um, and like the Sand Lane one is just super uninteresting to me. Like it's just
Yeah, it's
I
just
just skimmed it and I was like, okay, everything I do is just there's more. It just does
more
more
power.
stuff, a bunch of passive power. Bloodworms 2.0, which is a super weird thing to like do. Like it's
Yeah.
just like you read one of the talents and it's actually just like the description of bloodworms with the name of the like the model that it summons
Hmm.
being different. Like it's a blood beast instead of a bloodworm. And then there's further talents down below that like make the corpse explosion and stuff when they die. So it's like there's further things that like empower it to make it different than bloodworms. But the first one is just like it's bloodworms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, I'm interested to see the rest of these. I mean, hopefully we'll get some more previews, over the next couple months, particularly because I think alpha from the roadmap perspective for War Within should
Yeah.
be end of winter, early spring. So within the next, month or two, we should start seeing alpha invites roll out, which will be fun to mess around with if you get
That's
in.
gonna be
So
exciting.
yeah.
Um I'm gonna say I was really surprised to see these as early as we did.
Yeah, before Christmas. I think in my mind, this was like a start of January, maybe get the first previews early to mid January. But yeah, are out early, which is cool. Seems they're a little bit further along with some of these classes than other ones, so should be looking good. So with the final maybe 3 minutes, unless do you have anything else on talent trees?
Mm-mm.
So we did get a question from chat, which we'd like to get to because we love questions. And their question, it's from Anzuru. Anzuru? I cannot, I'm terrible.
Yep.
And they ask, how do you feel about the visual changes to make stuff less Covenant-y? They cite things like Phaline Stomp and to Jadefire Stomp as sort of the conversion. I think we talked about this a little bit a couple episodes ago, but I am a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of just particularly the Jadefire Stomp visual updates. I
Yeah.
think the static images don't do it justice. The actual animation is just as good and in my mind better than Phaline was. But yeah, no, I'm all for visual updates on things. I think even if the abilities don't change, I think it's cool when just you get something different visually. Because I think in my mind, that is the biggest strength that WoW has is the art team. I will go on like I'll take this to my grave that I think WoW from a visual perspective is one of the only games that I think continually any of the live service games out there continually knocks out of the park. In terms of just like the art. Every expansion looks awesome. Every zone looks really cool. The amount of detail. It's funny. Race changing is sort of brought to light that I don't look at character models enough, like player character models enough, because like they are absolutely gorgeous. Like in terms of like armor and all the models that they've put together. So no, huge fan of the visual updates to stuff whenever they come. And if this is sort of, I think some people saying uh erasing Shadowlands from existence. I don't think that's really maybe the point, but I think it is cool that they're doing the visual updates to things.
I do
I
hope
just
that
keep it in line with the class. So
I hope that they do like put in glyphs or something to pick the old animation, like
yeah,
um
it's fair.
having the ability, like some of them. I like the Night Fae one for Mage. Um,
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair.
I like that animation a lot. It's very much a Covenant thing. Like there's no reason for a Mage to be doing that seed thing in
Yeah,
in outside of the context of Shadowlands, but it does look cool. I like it. So I like to be able to like put a glyph on to make it like that.
yeah,
Um,
it's true.
so yeah,
Yeah, no, it's but yeah, the visual updates I think are always, at least in my mind, nice. And I think to be fair, if they can make it a choice for the player, I think it's cool. I will say though, I'm liking the no transmog in season discovery still, because everybody looks
you
like a
like your
little
clown
clown
outfit.
face. Oh, dude, it's my mage just looks absolutely horrid.
Although I will
Uh,
say, like the clown outfit stuff does not really kick in until TBC.
that
Like
is true. Yeah,
TBC is where you start getting the like pink and orange and bright green items, and you really look like you're in a clown suit.
yeah,
And vanilla is a lot more like browns and grays and things that
yeah,
don't. There are the odd like pink and gold and that kind of item, but it's not every other quest like in TBC.
yeah. No, that is true. That is true with that. But no, yeah, it's cool when that stuff comes in. So, but yeah, no, it's funny going from SOD to retail is just wild in terms of like model complexity. Like
Yeah.
it's very jarring, but it's fun. It's fun. So cool. I think that's about does it for the podcast. I don't think we have anything else to talk about.
Not yet.
Um,
Not yet.
no,
Hopefully we'll be seeing some more maybe hero talent previews this coming week.
that'd be nice.
Maybe some, some.
Yeah, I don't.
I wouldn't say no to some Tindral nerfs.
If they, by the way, if they invalidate the need for me going gnome this week, I
You'll
am
still be gnome,
going.
so you know what? You're fine.
I'm gonna have a coronary. I'm gonna like something's getting broken.
It's okay.
So
It's okay.
I have to.
You
I have
get
to go
back to
find my way to
Veldraken,
Iron
and then you
Forge.
never have to get lost in Stormwind again because you
That's
just don't go
true.
back there.
Oh, I gotta find my way from Ironforge to Stormwind. That's what I'm gonna be working on this
Okay,
afternoon.
let
I gotta.
me go through it again. Flight
Okay.
path from Ironforge to Stormwind.
Okay.
Then you fly over to the Mage Tower.
Okay.
It's marked on the map.
Okay.
You go in the
Are you
Mage Tower, and that's their portal room.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then you can just portal to Valdrakken, and you're done.
Nice. All right. And then I can set my Hearthstone there and never leave. Love it.
Yes,
I'm,
yes.
by the way, I'm 100% just paying a mage to point me to Valdrakken.
Why pay a mage? Pay a warlock.
Oh, it's true. That's true. I
Get a
get somebody
guild
to summon
warlock
me.
to be like, just bully him and be like, all right, you three, you're summoning me to Valdrakken.
I just need a summon. I'm lost in Ironforge. It's very, very, very confusing.
All right.
Well,
That is going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support it and the other stuff that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, you can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. That is the best place to, I don't know, there hasn't been any news recently, to chat about alpha when it gets here and or hero talent previews.
oh yeah.
But that is going to be it for the show today. And we will see you next week.
Bye.